Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if you're new here. One of the more popular comments I seem to get on my ship builds is usually about upgrading my engines to the SAL-6830's. These are apparently the engines to have if you're building a Class C ship. But are they? I wanted to find out what all the hype was about, so it was time to upgrade my ships. These engines are only available, however, if you complete the All That Money Can Buy quest for Walter Stroud. And not only do you have to complete the quest, but at the end, you have to convince Slayton and Stroud to work together. Only then will the mighty SAL-6830's be unlocked. Now, I had not completed the quest on this playthrough, so I headed to the lodge, completed the prerequisites to start the quest by finishing the Into the Unknown main quest, and got on my merry way. Now, I'm not going to go through the quest with you. That's not the point of this video. The quest itself is fairly linear and relatively easy, and I'm not going to spoil it. But I will give you a small hint. Do not kill anyone. Once the quest is over, and you did everything correctly, you should have access to the SAL-6830 engines. These provide an engine thrust of 18,000, a maneuvering thrust of 8,800, and an engine health of 180, and a mass of 330. And since they only take 2 max power, you can put 6 of them on your ship. So I headed over to a ship vendor and started upgrading my ships.
Need some work done? Sure, have at it.
We're starting with my most popular ship build to date, the Vengeance Mk2. This is my go-to ship. We can see we have a mobility of 68 using the SAL-6330 engines. So let's upgrade those to the SAL-6830's. So after I upgraded these engines, I have a mobility now of 84. That's a 16-point increase. Not as much as I would have expected. The next ship I'm going to upgrade is my original Vengeance redesign. This was the prototype build for the Mk2. As you can see, the ship is a little wider with a little different of a top module, and all the engines are in a straight line across the back. It was an interesting variant, but ended up being too wide for my liking. This ship has a mobility of 69, so we should end up around the same as our other ship after upgrading. And we do come out at 86 mobility. slightly more than our Vengeance, but close enough to be comparable. Next in the fleet is the Starborn ship, but we can't upgrade that. And here's my Jaeger build, and this uses a different engine altogether, and it's already at 100 mobility, so not worth upgrading. The next ship is one you may have seen on my channel, but I never did a build guide on this one. It's usually hanging around in the background. This is my battle cruiser, the USS Warchild. It is a variant on the Strongbow build, but with a little less cargo capacity and more habs. It's a fun ship to fly and a great all-purpose vessel. Let me know in the comments if you want to see a build guide on this one. Now it does use the SAL-6330's, so let's upgrade and see where that gets us. We're starting with a mobility of 65. And after upgrading, we're at a mobility of 81. Interesting. Next in my fleet is my Raider. This is a Class B ship, so we're not going to upgrade this one. And finally, we get to our latest build, the Trident. We're starting with a mobility of 86 on the ship, so we should end up higher after we upgrade. And we end up with a mobility of 100 after upgrading. So we have a slight increase on our mobility on our ships, usually around 14 to 16 points. But what does that mean in terms of how the ship flies? Are we going to notice any real difference? In short, not really. I took my Vengeance and my Trident out to the Serpentis system to test them in battle, and I really didn't notice any real difference on how the ship's handled. I don't know what I was expecting. This kind of felt like I put 91 octane in my car. I know I paid more, but it just didn't feel any different. So I decided to do some testing. I wanted to see what these engines really offered me, and I wanted to see if 100 mobility was really worth all the hype. So I built a test ship. This is a simple ship with 6 engines, either the SAL-6330's or the SAL-6830's. I could also load this ship with cargo to give it more mass, as I wanted to see just what the difference was between these engines. On each set of engines, I did 4 tests: general acceleration, boost, spin, and a full 360-degree turn. I performed these tests at 100 mobility, 50 mobility, and 0 mobility. What I noticed was there was no real difference in the performance of the 6830's versus the 6330's at any of the mobility settings. Meaning at 50 mobility, for example, the 6830's accelerated just as fast as the 6330's. What was different was the mass allowed. In order for my test ship to get to 100 mobility with the 6330's, I had to have my ship at 3,727 mass and 6,200 cargo. But with the 6830's, I was able to get my ship to 4,275 mass and 9,160 cargo capacity. That's a considerable difference. So while the ships perform the same at each mobility setting, my ship with the 6830's had considerably more mass. Now, let's talk about mobility. I tested 3 mobility stats: 100, 50, and 0. And what I found from there was kind of interesting. As expected, the 100 mobility felt very agile and was quick to accelerate, and the 0 mobility felt like driving a brick. What surprised me was the 50 mobility. In testing, the performance of the 50 mobility was not halfway between 100 and 0. In fact, it actually felt closer to the 100 mobility than to the 0 mobility. This leads me to believe that mobility is not linear. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a definite performance difference between 50 and 100, but the difference is not as great as between 50 and 0. Where we did see a clear difference was boost and acceleration. The 100 mobility was much quicker to accelerate and reached a higher top speed than the 50 mobility, and definitely higher than the 0 mobility. So what does this all mean for shipbuilding? Well, I think there's a couple things to take away from here. First, unless you're going for a max speed build, hitting 100 mobility is not really necessary. Anything over 50 will fly fine for most ships. Maybe split the difference and shoot for 75 for most builds. Second, if you are building a ship from scratch and have access to the 6830's, they're definitely the way to go. You can get way more mass on your ship, and more mass means more parts and more cargo capacity than most other engines. But if you have already built your ship to your liking and are just upgrading the engines for more mobility, then it's probably not worth the credits. An extra 14 mobility is not really going to be worth it. Let me know in the comments what you think. Are the 6830's worth the investment? Or are they just nice to have? Or is there another engine that you prefer to use? And if so, what is it? Just please keep all the comments and debates respectful. I'm Team Scorpio, and I'll see you in the next video.